$4.2 billion versus $2.6 billion. That's how much NASA paid Boeing and SpaceX respectively to build spacecraft. Yet today, while Boeing's Starliner sits grounded with $1.5 billion in losses, SpaceX's Dragon is making history with its 15th flight certification. The same Dragon that rescued stranded Boeing astronauts is now upgrading to Pacific Ocean landings for a mind-blowing reason NASA never considered. In 2025, SpaceX isn't just dominating space, they're redefining it. Boeing received 60% more funding, but delivered 0 operational missions. SpaceX ?12 successful crewed flights and counting. The technical breakthrough that makes this possible will shock you. Let's dive right in. In early 2025, SpaceX made a decision that puzzled even NASA engineers. They moved Dragon's landing zone from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific. Why abandon years of established recovery operations? The answer reveals SpaceX's forward thinking. Every Dragon mission ends with the capsule's trunk, its unpressurized cargo module, being jettisoned before re-entry. This 14-foot cylindrical structure doesn't completely burn up. Some pieces survive, falling unpredictably toward Earth. But here's what most aerospace companies don't advertise. Space debris is becoming a serious problem. Instead of ignoring it, SpaceX engineered a solution. By landing in the Pacific, they could now precisely time the trunk's release to target Point Nemo, Earth's most remote location, nicknamed the spacecraft cemetery. Think about this. While Boeing struggles to keep its capsule in orbit, SpaceX is already solving environmental problems no one else is addressing. But the Pacific strategy isn't just about debris management. It's about something much bigger. When NASA first certified Dragon capsules, they set a strict limit: 5 crewed flights per vehicle. 5 flights, then retirement. That was the standard until now. In a move that shocked the aerospace industry, SpaceX is working with NASA to triple that limit to 15 flights per capsule. Let that sink in. The same spacecraft could fly to space 15 times with humans aboard. Compare this to the space shuttle, which averaged about 25 flights per orbiter over decades. Dragon could achieve more than half that number in just a few years. What makes this possible? Dragon's innovative heat shield and structural design allow for unprecedented reusability. After each mission, SpaceX engineers conduct detailed inspections, replace only what's necessary, and recertify the vehicle. The financial implications are staggering. Traditional spacecraft cost hundreds of millions to build, fly once, and are discarded. SpaceX's approach spreads that cost across 15 missions. The result: SpaceX can charge less per seat while making more profit. But could this aggressive reuse compromise safety? The data suggests the opposite. Each flight provides valuable information that improves the next. Dragons are getting safer with age, not more dangerous. March 2025 marked a turning point in American spaceflight. NASA's original plan called for a brand new Dragon capsule C-213 to launch Crew 10. But production delays, particularly with battery systems Congress had mandated, forced a quick pivot. SpaceX proposed something unprecedented: reuse the Endurance capsule again, making it the most flown crewed spacecraft in active service. NASA agreed. This flexibility highlights a stark contrast. SpaceX designs for adaptability, while Boeing builds for rigid specifications. When problems arise, and they always do in spaceflight, SpaceX can pivot while Boeing gets stuck. Here's the twist few people recognize. SpaceX isn't just NASA's primary transportation provider. It's now the backup system too. When Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams launched on Boeing's Starliner test flight, they expected to return the same way. Instead, technical problems forced NASA to reassign them to Dragon. Let that sink in. Astronauts launched on Boeing had to be rescued by SpaceX. This wasn't just a scheduling change, it was an emergency extraction. Think of it this way. If you called 2 taxi companies and one showed up while the other kept making excuses, which would you trust for your next ride? In 2014, NASA made what seemed like a prudent decision: award contracts to both SpaceX and Boeing for crew transportation. Boeing received $4.2 billion, $1.6 billion more than SpaceX's $2.6 billion. The extra funding made sense on paper. Boeing had decades of aerospace experience. They built the Space Shuttle, the International Space Station, and countless military aircraft. SpaceX was barely a decade old, but what happened next defied all expectations. Despite the funding disadvantage, SpaceX delivered first, launching astronauts in 2020. 5 years later, SpaceX has completed 12 successful crewed missions. And Boeing, not a single operational flight, not one paying customer delivered to orbit. Even more shocking, Boeing's Starliner program has hemorrhaged money. They've reported over $1.5 billion in losses, pushing the total development cost to nearly $6 billion, more than twice SpaceX's cost. Why such different outcomes? The answer lies in their fundamentally different approaches to engineering. Boeing followed traditional aerospace methods: extensive planning, rigid specifications, and sequential testing. When problems arose, they struggled to adapt. SpaceX embraced rapid iteration: build, test, fail, redesign, repeat. This approach allowed them to identify and fix problems faster, ultimately producing a more reliable spacecraft at lower cost. While Boeing's Starliner bleeds money, SpaceX's Dragon has become a profit machine. Each private mission can generate over $200 million in revenue. With seats selling for tens of millions each, SpaceX has transformed human spaceflight from a government expense into a profitable business. By 2023, SpaceX was earning more than $8 billion annually with over $500 million in net profit. This financial success isn't just impressive, it's revolutionary. For the first time in history, sending humans to space is becoming profitable without government subsidies. The implications extend far beyond low Earth orbit. If SpaceX can make Dragon profitable, what might they achieve with Starship? The same approach, rapid iteration and reusability, applied to much larger vehicles, could reduce the cost of reaching Mars by orders of magnitude. As SpaceX extends Dragon's capabilities and Boeing struggles with basic functionality, Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' space company, found itself in an embarrassing predicament. After their New Shepard NS-31 mission, their first crewed flight in nearly 2 years, cameras caught a strange moment. The capsule's hatch opened from the inside before Bezos could walk up for his choreographed opening from the outside. For context, this wasn't just any flight. It carried celebrities like Katy Perry and Bezos' fiancée, Lauren Sanchez. The moment sparked online conspiracy theories. Had the capsule actually gone to space? Was this all staged? While the hatch is technically designed to open from both sides, the incident revealed Blue Origin's focus: spectacle over substance. They seem more concerned with celebrity photo ops than advancing spaceflight technology. But Blue Origin wasn't content to simply create its own PR disasters. In a stunning display of competitive pettiness, they filed a formal complaint with the FAA against SpaceX, attempting to limit Starship launches from Kennedy Space Center over alleged environmental concerns. The irony is palpable. A company that has launched only 7 suborbital tourist flights, none reaching orbit, trying to slow down the company that's revolutionizing orbital spaceflight. It wasn't even the first time. Blue Origin previously sued NASA after SpaceX won the Artemis lunar lander contract, delaying humanity's return to the moon by months. As impressive as Dragon's upgrades are, they represent just the beginning of SpaceX's ambitions. The lessons learned from Dragon, rapid iteration, aggressive reusability, and designing for adaptability, are being applied to Starship on a much larger scale. While Dragon can carry 4 astronauts to the International Space Station, Starship could potentially transport hundreds of people anywhere in the solar system. The same engineering philosophy that made Dragon successful is being scaled up dramatically. This raises profound questions. If SpaceX can make LEO accessible with Dragon, what might they achieve with Starship? How will Boeing and other traditional aerospace companies adapt when their business model is fundamentally challenged? And perhaps most importantly, how quickly could humanity become multi-planetary if the cost of spaceflight continues to plummet? The space industry stands at a crossroads. One path follows traditional aerospace practices, cautious, expensive, and government-dependent. The other embraces SpaceX's approach, iterative, efficient, and increasingly profitable. The evidence is clear. In the race to define humanity's spacefaring future, Dragon's upgrades aren't just technical improvements. They're the foundation of a revolution. And as Boeing's struggles demonstrate, the old way of doing things may be reaching its end. As we've seen, SpaceX isn't just winning the space race, they're redefining it entirely. From Pacific Ocean landings to 15 flight certifications, they've transformed spacecraft from expensive disposables into efficient, reusable vehicles. But here's the bigger question that keeps me up at night. What happens when reaching orbit becomes as routine as catching a flight? When the cost drops not by percentages, but by orders of magnitude? History shows that when transportation costs plummet, civilization transforms. The railroad created industrial cities, affordable flights connected distant cultures. What might emerge when space becomes truly accessible? Perhaps the most fascinating aspect isn't the technology itself, but what it reveals about innovation. SpaceX succeeded not because they had more money or experience, but because they embraced a fundamentally different approach to problem solving. What other industries are ripe for this kind of disruption? What other impossible challenges might yield to the right mindset? If you're fascinated by these questions like I am, hit subscribe and join our Space Corps community. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm especially curious. Which SpaceX innovation do you think will have the biggest long-term impact on humanity? Until next time, keep looking up. They aborted the engine fire test. Fuel system issues? Or is there something way bigger going on behind the scenes? The future of SpaceX's Starship program is hanging in the balance. We're breaking down all the latest with Ship 35 and Booster 14 and the shocking impact it could have on the entire industry. Let's dive right in. So, that aborted engine fire test with Ship 35? It wasn't just a minor hiccup, was it? When you see those unexpected flashes at the base during an earlier 6-engine static fire, that immediately raises red flags, a clear indication of potential engine trouble. SpaceX, known for their incredibly agile approach, didn't hesitate. They swiftly returned S-35 to the production site, a move that underscores their commitment to thoroughness, even amidst rapid development. Engines were meticulously swapped out, and the vehicle was back on the test stand by May 10th. The sequence of events leading up to the aborted test was textbook for a static fire. Fueling operations commenced. The telltale signs of an imminent hot fire were all there. The characteristic venting, the frosty exterior as super-chilled propellants filled the tanks, and then the deluge system, ready to suppress the immense heat and pressure. But then, that unsettling silence. No ignition. Just the frost gradually receding as they began the detanking process. What does an abrupt halt like this really tell us? Was it a mere technical glitch? A sensor anomaly perhaps? Or are we potentially looking at a more fundamental issue within Starship's complex engine technology? Could this have been a simple precautionary measure, a standard cryogenic proof test to ensure the structural integrity of the tanks at operational temperatures? Or are we potentially staring at a significant snag in the very heart of Starship's revolutionary Raptor engine design? The lack of a fiery conclusion leaves us with more questions than answers, doesn't it? While the silence surrounding Ship 35 hangs heavy in the air, the ground beneath the towering Super Heavy Booster 14 is practically vibrating with anticipation. Fresh off the back of its successful hot stage test in early April, a critical milestone proving the separation sequence, B-14 was seemingly poised to join S-35 on the launch mount, ready for the full stack. This is not just any booster. This is a booster with a proven track record, the first Super Heavy to fly twice, even achieving that seemingly impossible, almost balletic catch by the launch tower. With the intricate flight termination system likely already installed, a crucial safety mechanism, and the hot staging ring seamlessly integrated, B-14 should be technically ready to go. But the unexpected delay with S-35 throws a significant wrench into those meticulously planned operations. Are Ship 35 and Booster 14 now inextricably linked in this complex dance of development? Does the progress of one hinge entirely on the readiness of the other? And what does this unforeseen holdup ultimately mean for that ambitious, late May launch window they were so clearly aiming for? The timing of these crucial tests and launches is always so tightly orchestrated. A delay in one area inevitably creates ripples across the entire schedule. Interestingly, while the world's attention is understandably focused on the